Pitts has called the match. For some strange reason, he's giving the victory to Kid Kelsey.
Mr. X declared the new champion.
The new champion, Mr. X.
He's won the title back. Get it back. Bring the crown.
Crossen, the new champion.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are live on both channels, Kayfabe with Keaton and NWF Wrestling. And Keaton, what an announcement we just had on Forward. I know you've seen it, and we just seen it again. What do you have to say? I mean, this is right in your backyard.
Like, I knew there was going to be something surprising going on. Like, I know the way Crossen gets on. He likes to keep things to himself, and I just thought to myself, what? And I was speechless the full time. Canary Kid is going up against Ben Nelson, and I can assure you, after Canary Kid we've seen a new Canary Kid here. He means business when he's facing Ben Nelson here.
You know, Canary was actually shocked. You know, he didn't even know what to say at first, if you noticed, and we had to run the promo to get it so he could get his bearings. And you know, I know this match is going to be a big deal to both of them, and you heard the reasons. You know, you heard what they had to say, right? So, and for us, and when we get our guest in here, Chuck, Luxury. I'm just going to call him Luxury. You know, Luxury Lane, the co-founder of the league. He understands he looks at this just like I do, with pride. We look at the fact that you guys are coming in and, you know, you're going to wrestle for this championship over there. It gives us a lot of pride in the NWF to see that you know, kind of like the passing of the torch almost, you know. Not that I'm not trying to belittle Canary or Ben, like, you know, you guys are just kids, but they're young up and coming wrestlers, right? Definitely. And that's the premise of the NWF belt. It was for up and coming rising young stars. That's what we were at the time. And that's what you guys are today. So, you know?
Yeah, and, you know, I think this is a very good thing to be happening. I'm very excited for it. But here's $1 million question. Will Crossen be an inferior referee?
Now, Keaton, we've had our differences before, but you know that I'm Mr. Integrity. Wait till we get Lane in here. He knows I'm Mr. Integrity. I always call it down the middle. I cannot believe that you just asked that question of me.
But did you really? Because what about the bashness towards the Canary Kid? Every single month.
Oh, yeah.
The Canary Kid.
Oh, I know what. Look, part of the reason Canary was speechless was because he knows he just put me through the ringer for 3 months, calling me every dirty name in the book, being my co-host, thinking that he had nothing to lose. Well, now he's got the NWF belt to lose, maybe. But no, Keaton.
And even the way you're talking here, you're even letting yourself down. You're letting your guard down, because what is happening here is it's all coming out true. There's going to be something happening here. You're going to attack the Canary Kid. Bashness is showing again.
No. Wait till we get Lane in here. Lane will defend me. I know Lane. He knows Crusher Crossen. Listen, I'm not going to play any shenanigans. There's not going to be any tomfoolery or anything like that. I'm going to be honest. Honest Abe Crusher here. And I can't believe you even question this with me because you've read my book. You know the story. Look, I've always been the baby face for the most part. I've never been a heel. I don't know what that means. It's Canary that's tinkering around with the heel stuff, not me. But I will say this, Keaton. Canary better be on his best behavior. He gets out of line. I'm the ref. He gets out of line. I will disqualify his rear end. So there's that. But you know something, Keaton? And I know you're shaking your head and you probably got more to say. We'll talk more about it. But let's get our guest in here. You know, he's been waiting on the sidelines. I'm sure Luxury's got something to say on all of this. Plus, we're going to learn the whole backstory of the NWF, how it got started. You know, there's a lot to be told here. And so we don't have a watch along, you guys. We're going to be doing a lot of talking, but we do have a nice little slideshow that's going to play on the bottom of the screen. So you'll see a lot of pictures and a lot of things that both Luxury and I have done over the years. Not just with the beginning of the show, but during, you know, the book and the documentary and the fan fest. So without any further ado, let's bring in our guest. He is coming to us, I believe, from the state of Florida right now. Luxury Lane. There he is. Chuck Lane, Luxury Lane. Welcome in, Luxury.
You bet. Yeah, I was listening to you guys, and Keaton, I want to tell you something. Crusher will go into that reffing, and he will have integrity, and he'll be right down the middle, but everybody else has got to be that way too, or he's going to come unglued. And I just know he can get there. Get unglued at his age, he can still move and shake with the best of them.
Yeah, Lane knows. Look, you know, I will. You know, I hope Canary keeps his cool in the match, Keaton, because he shoves me, I'll shove him back. You know, I'm the ref. You don't mess with the ref. As you can see right there in the slideshow, I don't know if you guys see the same thing. I see Luxury Lane as a referee right now with Crusher Crossen. But yeah, that's about. You're going to see these pictures we're going to see here, guys, is from back in the show as well as later on. You'll see a lot of different things here. So if you have any questions, Keaton, on the pictures, just ask. You know, we'll tell you what you're looking at. So this is Kayfabe with Keaton. Luxury, so I'm going to kind of let Keaton kind of drive the ship here. I'm sure he's got some questions and stuff, and of course we'll take your comments and stuff as we go. By the way, here's a comment right off the bat, Keaton, before you get started. Let's get this one out of the way. How amazing. Did Luxury Lane ever win the NWF title? This is so cool to see the belt coming back to life after all these years in storage. Well, Luxury, did you ever win that NWF belt?
Well, here, now, let's get to the truth and the facts of the matter. You know, I won many belts when I wrestled. But there's one belt and one person who would never allow me to get in the ring with him. And that happens to be Crusher Crossen, but that goes way, way back. But if I would have gotten the ring with the Crush, the reason the Crush never scheduled us to go head-to-head is because he knew Luxury would put him in one of those moves, put him to sleep, and win the belt. And he just didn't want to lose the belt.
All right, let's talk facts here. Now, first of all, we did wrestle, but the reality is we would not agree to put either one of us over. So the match was a draw. And on camera, Charlie and I wrestled plenty of times off camera. And as Luxury knows, I kicked his tail every time we wrestled off camera. So, you know, just talking good old roughhouse wrestling in the backyard. Yeah. So there's that. Yeah. I don't think I could take Luxury today, though. That's for darn sure, because I look up to him.
Yeah.
Luxury's a big guy, guys. He's a big guy. He could be in this business for sure.
Oh, Sean was always nimble in the ring. He could move quick and fast and get in and out of moves, and he was a hell of a wrestler. So,
yeah. Well, Keaton, I know you got some questions going, so let's cut you loose here and let you ask some questions. And guys, feel free to comment along. I'll bring those in as we go.
So, how did you and Sean first meet?
You know, that goes way back. I think, was it at babysitting, Sean, next door?
Yep.
I can't remember the name of who it was Sean's neighbor babysat
Yeah.
Sean and I in a group.
That was
of kids.
Claudette Millard, the Millards.
Yep.
And
So
Charlie used to get dropped off by his parents because they had to work early in the morning. So they'd drop him off and they'd watch him. And it was right next door to me. So, Charlie, you were in the first grade, and I would have been in the third grade. And that's how we met each other. And Charlie actually should be 2 years behind me, but he actually became 3 years behind me because there was a sledding accident. And that's when I met Charlie. He had just had the sledding accident and broke his leg. So you're in crutches.
Yep, I was out of back then, Keaton. I had they didn't have the technology, and I was in a cast for half the school year, and they had to re-break my leg like 2 or 3 times because it wasn't growing back. I broke it in 3 spots, and it was a tough year for me. But yeah, I got held back that year in first grade.
Yeah. So he got held back a year, and that's kind of a story because when we joined football together, his dad was the coach, and his dad was a great guy, by the way, John Lane. Just kind of a Jesse the Body Ventura, style, just like Charlie. They're very similar. But his dad was a good guy, and he was the coach. And Charlie and I were obviously, thought of highly by his dad. So, but then some parent made a stink about it, saying, "Hey, he's not supposed to be in this. He's a grade younger." Technically, he's old enough, but he was a grade younger, so he couldn't have been in the same level of our Pop Warner football. So, yeah, so that's why I remember the whole leg breaking incident and what all became of that. So,
well, when you talk about breaking your leg there, when you were wrestling, did that ever affect you?
It never really affected me. I do remember one time, and I seen a clip on your slide, and I'm sure Crusher remember that. We were at the cable studio, and I got slammed. I can't remember who did it. I don't know if
it's Fisher.
It was Fisher, and I hit my ankle on the side of the wood, and it took a while to heal, and that's where I broke it. And I don't know if it took longer because of that, but that possibly could have affected me in that particular situation for a while because I had to sit out. I kind of got back in there too, I think. Didn't I, Crush?
Yeah. Oh, you limped out, and then you came back, and it was hurting. It was swollen up. What happened, Keaton, that stage we had in Group W was like a wooden stage, and the edges were just wood, sharp. And so Fisher took Lane up and just did a complete like suplex throw, and Lane's foot just went boom right on the edge of that, where the stage meets. Yeah.
Yeah, it hurt. But I got back out there and got things done. I think, looking back at those days, those early days, and I mean, both Sean and I think could handle a lot of pain because there were times when, well, you guys know that in wrestling, things go wrong and you get hit and have some bumps and bruises. But, and of course, back when we did the wrestling, it was kind of new. I mean, you didn't have kids pro wrestling shows, and eventually Sean took it to the next level and did some things with Eddie Sharkey, and he's went through all that with you with the NWF. But it was just unheard of back in the day. And you look at it like in the United States, and you guys stop me at any time if I'm rambling on. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what Sean and I did, is something that would probably be pretty difficult to do today in the United States because of liability insurance, all that stuff. And Sean was such a go-getter. Once he got that idea in his head about the wrestling, he got the cable. He went to the cable. He figured that all out. Like for a young kid, to be that motivated and figure out how to get things going. And we took camera classes, and next thing you know, we had a wrestling show in the basement of Sean's house, and it grew from there. But those are really fond memories. And looking back now and seeing the drive, because Sean was I was more the kid that came up with the idea. As we but I give Sean credit because without him and his savviness and technology and all the stuff he did, to bring that to view on television. And I'm not just saying cable television in Minnesota. At one point, it got to like 22 states in the United States. So it wasn't just, but for someone to do that is amazing, and he didn't have his mom and dad. I mean, they supported him, but he was doing this as a young kid, and then as a young man, so pretty amazing what he was able to accomplish. And my role in this whole thing, honestly, is, him and I had some conversation, thought it was a great idea. I helped bring wrestlers in, and I'm sure you've heard that from Sean before. And I worked side by side with Sean, but he kind of led the direction and had the vision to take it to where it was. So I'm really proud of him. I'm proud of the example he set for kids across the country. Where you have a dream, just go for it. Just go for it, and that's kind of what we did as kids. Both Sean and I just went for it, and had a lot of fun.
And I will say this, Charlie, you mentioned, I'm sorry, Chuck. It's hard for me to call him Chuck, I got to say. I mean, I spent 40 years of my life calling him Charlie.
You call me Charlie. I just know it.
But I know he likes Chuck. But let's just say luxury. I'll refer to luxury. We don't really know who exactly had the idea. I will tell you this, though, what I do know. He was a wrestling fan before me. And I know that for a fact because I vividly remember calling him up when he was in the middle of watching Hulk Hogan and Nick Bockwinkel in this major title match. And I didn't know what he was watching, but I knew his attention wasn't there. And I'm like, Charlie, I just wanted to say, hey, let's get together. Let's hang out. We'd do that. We'd call each other. Hey, what are you doing? Let's go hang out. Because we were walking distance, right? And from our houses. And so anyways, he's like, whatever. You know what? I got to go. And I said, what do you got to go for? I said, what's going on? It's a Sunday morning. And he's like, Hulk Hogan's got a pair of bass knuckles. He's going to hit Nick Bockwinkel. I'll call you back. And he hung up the phone on me. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I knew it was wrestling. So I thought, I got to tune on and see what the heck this is all about. And because of that phone call, I became a Hulkamaniac too. And I started getting sucked into what Charlie was watching. And that's what got me in. So Charlie, Luxury, he was the wrestling fan. He was the one that if it wasn't for him even being a fan, I wouldn't have even been a fan. But then as far as the idea to do the show, I mean, we used to do the He-Man figures and we made a mock wrestling ring. This was before they sold wrestling rings and our action figures. We'd use He-Man figures for wrestling figures, and we would do all the stop motion stuff with the camera because I'd already took the classes. I already had the camera classes going. We didn't think of the wrestling show right away. But between the two of us, we somehow got this wild and crazy idea to do a kids wrestling show. And I always say this, if it wasn't for Lane and myself coming together, the show would have never even happened. If he wasn't involved, it wouldn't have happened. If I wasn't involved, it wouldn't happen. Together, it just worked with us, And that's really what it is. Don't you think so, Luxury?
I do. You know what? It was so long ago, and I remember that phone conversation. I remember, putting together the little He-Man, and I mean that took hours. We'd have to move and stop,
stop motion.
We thought it was so cool, and we only had like maybe a couple minutes of He-Man wrestling, but it took us hours to do. But it was entertaining for us, and
we made our own rings, our own little replica rings. This is Keaton. This was before you could even get wrestling action figures. But anyways. Yeah. When we say stop motion, we put the guys in a position, we'd record it and just record one frame. Then we'd move them, record another frame, move them. And then when you play it through, it looks like they're actually having a match, right? I'm sure you've seen stuff like that today now. People are really good at it. But but I think, Charlie, seeing that, I think the light bulb went off in both of our heads. Why are we doing figures? We could be doing this, right?
Yeah. Yep. No, and like I said, Sean's really right, because if that phone call would have never happened, because I think, ultimately Sean's the one that pushed to get this wrestling thing going. And if that show wouldn't have happened with both of our, I played a part, he played a bigger part, in time and took it to the next level. But yeah, it's just amazing how things work out, and and I'm very proud of it. And I'm very proud of, anybody out there that's trying to attempt to do what we did and what Sean did and took the show to, because man, I've met a lot of people, Keaton, just people, pro wrestlers that, we've been to FanFest, we've been invited out and we've been part of it. And just, they recognize who we are and what we did. And even fans recognize who we are and what we did, because we played a small part in the professional wrestling world, a big part in, the kids pro wrestling, but in the adult pro wrestling, we played a part. We had respect, and that came through a vision and a dream, and then execution. And who I never thought that it would go as far as a book and documentary. And granted, that's a lot of Sean's hard work to get those things done, and even going to a fan fest, and being part of the professional wrestling was really cool.
And then to win, our documentary, we don't talk a lot about it, but our documentary actually won awards at the New York International Film and Video Festival, as well as the Los Angeles International Film Video Festivals. We won best sports documentary, I believe, in LA. And, we won some awards and stuff, which is pretty cool, and just to go out there and see all that. And you've seen some of those pictures that we have from some of those venues. You see me and Charlie standing in front of our movie poster and everything. That was kind of cool. But yeah, it was a lot of work. And I'll tell you though, in the beginning, and I'm sure you got questions on us, Keaton, but in the beginning, Charlie was really big on 50-50. It was a partnership with he and I, and there was even a time when we got in a fight and the show stopped. As kids, we're kids. And young teenagers, we're going to not always see eye to eye. Look, if you get along all the time, there's something wrong. And Charlie and I had our Charlie's the kind of guy like this. Let me give you an example, Keith. We're walking home from school, and I'd usually wait. I got off early because I'm a couple years older than him, so I wait for his bus stop. And he'd get off the bus, and we'd start walking to his house. And there'd be times where we'd be just in a little bit of an argument. And, and I'm trying to argue with him, and he's arguing back. And finally, Charlie throws his books down, goes into the grass, says, "You and me, right now." Remember that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, "I'm not going to fight you, Lane. I'm not fighting." I'd never fight him for real. And then there are times when he'd lose his temper with other kids in the neighborhood, and I'd have to hold Charlie back, because with Ackerman and stuff, he'd start chasing him around, and I'd have to kind of separate the guys. Lane had a little bit of a temper as a kid.
Yeah, I used to get in a lot of fights, and
yeah,
I did have a bad temper, but we both knew where to draw the line on things, and we're good buddies. So, but it was, looking back at those times and all the experiences, it was really cool, really fun, really something I can be proud of, that has made me an entrepreneur today. Because in the wrestling world, you got to act, you got to create, you got to interact.
Right. And I don't think maybe the people watching don't realize, but we were actually, our wrestling show, it started out really amateurish, right? The wrestling side of it, we get that. We understand that. And even when we got good, we still are nowhere to where they are today. When I'm talking about Ricky and Ben and those guys, they are levels above us, even where the best we ever were, because wrestling's evolved. It's gotten more precise, and they got better training than we had. I mean, we know this, but here's the thing though. When we were doing the show, even in the infamous days in the beginning, when Charlie was there, it was a television production just as much as a wrestling promotion with kids. So we were just all hands on. It was us as kids in the control room, in the directing room, running the cameras, doing the editing, producing the entire back end of the show. There wasn't people. I don't want people to get confused here. There were no adults with us saying, "Okay, we're going to help you. We're going to do this with you." Our mom and dads and stuff, they weren't a part of this. They knew we were doing it, but they weren't controlling us at all. It was me and Charlie were doing this in the beginning as us kids. It was us kids. They allowed it to happen. That's the thing. The cable company, they allowed it. As hard as that might be to believe for a lot of people out there. Right, Luxury?
Yeah, no, it's like I said, today, to duplicate what we did in the United States, I don't know if it can be done. I don't know, because of the liability and they don't just let you come in, and kids take expensive cameras out. And it was just a different time. We were very fortunate, right?
Right. We were fortunate. And, and that's why I'm a big advocate because of all of this. What me and Luxury learned in the beginning, and I just kept, as Luxury always says, I always took it to the next level. And because of all that experience with what I had gotten out of this, today when I look at things, I look at you, Keaton, I look at anybody, I say, you can accomplish anything if you put your mind to it, because I'm speaking from experience. I'm telling you from my heart, because I lived it and he lived it. I'm talking about Luxury. We know this. So it's kind of sometimes hard. I don't want to get on Canary Kid, but sometimes, Ricky doubts himself and his own abilities, like as far as what he could do as a promoter or whatever. And I have a hard time dealing with that, because I lived it. And believe me when I tell you, we had people coming to us saying, you guys are just wasting your time with this. This is never going to amount to anything. The silly wrestling show you're doing, we heard it in school. We heard it from other people that weren't fans of what we were doing. We always heard the negative, but we looked past that and we kept saying, you know what? That's your opinion, but I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. And that's the attitude we had, and we made it work. So it's hard for me to convey that to people, though, like sometimes with Ricky, for example, that sometimes can't see the light at the end of the tunnel because he's just so convinced it would never work. And I have a whole different attitude. But, I don't blame Ricky for that. Not everybody's going to have that drive and desire that we have. Everybody can't be a leader. You have to have followers too. There's only certain leaders, right? And it takes a leader to really see the vision, to see it through. And that's something that Charlie, I'm proud to say that Chuck and I both were. We were leaders back then. And I rambled there a little bit, but
Well, you were a heck of a promoter too. I mean, Sean got, he got the documentary, he got the book, he had it in retail stores, he had it on Netflix, he's still on Prime. People can rent the documentary movie and probably other things. Yeah. So when you think about how it evolved and where it went to, pretty cool story.
But cool. My message though to guys like Ricky and John and all these guys up and coming, it doesn't matter what it is you're doing. Whether you want to be a promoter, whether you want to be a wrestler, whether you want to be both, whatever the case is, you put your mind to it and it will happen. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. So you just have to keep moving forward. That's the lesson in life for everybody, All right, Keaton, I know you got more questions, and we rambled so much. We haven't even heard from Wrestling Revolution, Keaton, and it's your show. So,
well, I was very fascinated by what you were saying there, but this is the $1 million question. Who actually came up with the idea of the NWF?
Well,
we both.
We've argued about this for 40 years,
It's been an argument for 40 years. I don't know. I think it's a mystery, man. I think John thinks he did. I think I did. I think, honestly, when I look back at the whole thing, it was a little bit of both of us. I mean, if we really look back, like Sean said, the phone call, the He-Man figures, and then all of a sudden we get into who actually said, I know Sean was really gung-ho and got this cable television, like taking these classes and stuff. Yeah. I think it was just a little bit of everything. Honestly, when I look back, I can't really say now 100% that, I started it or had the idea or Sean did. I think it was just different pieces fell into place and the show evolved, But I will say this, there was that one phone call. And that one phone call, as Crusher Crossen said, would have never got into wrestling if it wasn't for that one call with Hulk Hogan when I was talking about Hulk Hogan. So you guys out there, you wrestling fans and everybody, you draw your own conclusion. But if it was me, I'd say safe bet that the idea came.
Well, Hogan was a huge influence on us. This was before the WWF Hulk Hogan. This was the AWA Hulk Hogan. He was a huge influence on Luxury and me. When Rocky came out, me and him were first in line at the theater to see it, only because Hogan was in it. We were all Rocky fans a little bit, but Hulk Hogan was in this movie. We had to see this. So yeah.
Heck, I think we stayed for the next show. I think we
We
watched
did. It was back when we snuck out the door and came back in. Yeah, in the old Noka movie theater. Yeah, we could get away with it. Yeah.
You talk there about being inspired by Hulk Hogan. Would you say that you got some of your style in the ring from Hulk Hogan?
Well, with me, for sure. I know exactly who Lane was influenced by, and that was Jesse the Body Ventura. Lane was like a miniature Jesse, just in his interview style and everything, Yeah, we were huge AWA fans. We were marks for the AWA.
I mean, we went to shows. We'd go to shows at, arenas and stuff. So we were big, big, big fans. But yeah, I would say Sean nailed that right. I wasn't a very polished wrestler, when I was younger. I mean, Sean,
none of
some
us
of those
were
guys back then had way, way better moves than me, but I was just one of those guys that was fun to listen to, I think. And I got in the ring and did my thing. And
you see Lane doing the karate kick in that picture there, and he was big into Taekwondo karate at the time, so he became the Luxury Brothers, him and Jeff Ortel. They wore the karate suits, and they did all these karate moves. Now, Ortel didn't know a lick of karate; he just wore the suit. But Lane actually went through lessons, so he knew a little bit of karate, and he used it.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, he did. But yeah.
And you talk there about going to wrestling shows. You're at if I'm right, you're at a Super Sunday show before, weren't you?
I was there. Lane wasn't at the Super Sunday though. But I remember Luxury and I were at the Anoka Ice Arena when the AWA did their smaller shows. They'd come to our town, and they did the Anoka Ice Arena, and Lane and I were there for that one. And I don't know if you remember, Lane, but we snuck into the damn locker room and interrupted Billy Robinson and Baron Von Raschke going over their match. And Robinson was pissed. It's like, can you give us a little privacy here? Billy Robinson said, and I'm like, oh, whoa, we're just, here we are, two 12-year-old kids or 13-year-old, and we just got yelled at. And to that day, from that moment on, I thought, you are such a prick. Billy Robinson. But you know what? Now that I'm older, I see why he said what he did, right? We interrupted him in Kayfabe days. You don't do that, even if you're a kid.
I've watched back at some of your old promos, and you're a very, very good heel. What's the worst thing you've said to get heat as a heel on mic?
For you, Luxury, as a bad guy, that's Lane might not be brushed up on all the terms, but a heel is the bad guy.
Yeah, no, I understand. So I don't, I guess looking back on my time in the wrestling and I don't recall.
Like your interviews. How'd you come up with all the smack talk to get
the
over
interview? The smack
to get over
talk.
as the heel and everything.
I think what I did is I just kind of watching a lot of AWA wrestling and
the interview segments. We always watched them.
Yeah, and like Jesse Ventura, Hulk Hogan, gosh, I mean Nick Bockwinkel, all those guys. I lived it like it was Sundays and it was wrestling. So I think I took a little bit of different pieces from different people, but. I really I studied those guys when I was watching them on how they talked and how they got on there and were the bad guys, and so I think it was just inspired through those guys and coming up with my own style.
And let me put it in a little more context for Keaton and the rest of you newbies out there that are new wrestling fans today that are used to seeing everything on television. For us in the territory days and watching AWA. The way it would be is when you'd watch the show on Sunday mornings, the wrestling wasn't any good. It was your main stars going against guys that are schmucks that are just weekend wrestlers that are just they're not going to win, and all you're seeing is just a demonstration of the other guy's moves. You didn't watch it for that, but in between all those were the interview segments, and that was what we were always watching because that's the whole build up to the card coming up. And they would just sit there, and those interview segments were all so important because that was where you talked about who you're going against, in the AWA. Like Hogan would be talking about he's going to have a match with Bockwinkel, or Ventura was talking about who he's going to have. And they do all their talk back and forth. And that's the stuff we would watch. That's what you watched. And so when we did our show and Luxury became Luxury, we're all influenced by what we've seen in these interviews. And so we try to do the same with our own characters. And that's where it comes from. It comes from what we watched growing up. Now, eventually they changed all that, and then they started giving you better wrestling, and the jobbers were a thing of the past. That's what we called them, jobbers, nobodies that went against these guys. But that's how it was for us. So the interview segments, the personality, coming up with the persona and everything, that was forefront for us, which is why when we started our show as kids, look, we didn't have a great setting. We're on bed mattresses, for crying out loud, in the studio without any ropes or anything. But we had our characters, we had our development, we had our personas, we had our, and this is what we were selling to the people. We were selling our characters that we were creating, right? Makes sense, I guess?
And obviously the Luxury Lane character was bad heel on the mic. How did you develop the Luxury Lane character?
I think we were talking, and I just thought it would be really cool to have Luxury Lane. It kind of flowed, Luxury Lane. And so I think that's how I came up with the character, the name and the character. And
I think it was your idea, though. I think you came up with it.
Yeah, I did. I thought it would be cool because, Luxury Lane, it kind of flows. And, I don't know. I was a young kid back then, and I thought it was kind of a cool name.
Kind of lived the life of luxury. And then I remember Chris Daniels, one of our wrestlers. He was a little bit bigger than all of us, and off camera, we were doing a show, but we weren't actually recording. And I remember Chris goes up to Lane. He goes, Luxury Lane, shouldn't it be Luxurious Lane? And Lane goes, "Shut up, Chris." But he's right. But when Lane gets his mindset with his name, that's his name. Yeah. Another funny story with Charlie. He come up to visit and went back, and it was a little bit more advanced. We had the ring ropes in the studio, so it looked a little bit more like a ring. And Lane made a guest appearance, and he was commentating, and Lane accidentally said the wrong move for what happened in the ring. And Madman Nash was next to him, and Nash goes, "Oh, mistake. That's not a pile driver," whatever Charlie said. All of a sudden you can hear Charlie cover the mic, and he's like, "Shut up. What's it called?" And then, okay. They work it out off camera. Lane did not like being called out there.
Oh, I remember that.
Oh, the stories we could tell you, Keaton.
Yeah. Just hear it on air.
Yeah, you could hear it. Like, wait till I do the restoration of this one. It'll pick up even better when I fix the audio. But yeah, you can hear him cover up the mic. And, yeah. Charlie didn't like being embarrassed. Don't embarrass him by saying like he didn't know. That's was the moral of the story there.
What were your initial goals and expectations for the NWF?
Yeah, initial for you. Okay. Initially.
Yeah. Well, I think, I wanted to see it go nationally and get big, obviously, and be on TV and newspapers. And I had to leave the NWF, but I was really happy for Sean because he was able to accomplish those things. But I envisioned it I think when we started the show, of course, you sit there and you think, oh, we're going to be famous. We're going to be, and TV all over and this and that. But some of it was kind of true because, we were recognized in the professional wrestling world. Obviously, Sean, what I dreamt about, until I moved away, he really kind of accomplished because he was able to get it on a national scene and was able to get media and, it all really, back in 2006 when we did the Fan Fest, when we traveled around the country to go to, we went to Warner Brothers Studios, and they were looking at making a movie about what Sean and I started. and they tabled it, so it may end up being a movie someday. I don't know, but going to all those you know international film festivals, and actually in Europe, the documentary was in the Cannes Film Festival
And
before he
Cans
told.
or Cons or Cans, however you pronounce it.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it was big, but so I guess, to sum it all up, those were my dreams if I would have been part of it longer. And Sean took those and made it happen. I'm very proud of him. I'm very proud of the organization. I'm very proud of the fact that they've got younger people and others that admire what he did and accomplished. So
And
those were my dreams, though. And for the most part, everything was like, wow, it's happening. It's in 22 states. It's crazy. Years later, the media and everything. I mean, the Governor Plenty, sent out a letter to me and Sean on the documentary, in the book, and endorsing it for the state of Minnesota, our governor. So I'm pretty proud of it. So I think things really came.
in Wisconsin, I had a few senators do the same. Yeah.
So those were my dreams, and I think for the most part, everything was like it came true.
Yeah. I mean, you really nailed it there with all of that. And, there were some rocky roads in the beginning. I know that, like I said, when Charlie and I got in a little bit of a fight over just piddly kid shit, but we got in a fight over something. And, I remember going to the Holiday gas station, and Milton Warner was an older kid on the show. He was older than the Charlie and I. He's older than me. And I ran into Milton, and he's like, it was at a Holiday gas station. We always used to go get the slushes. Remember that, Charlie? The slushes? They're really good. Yep.
Yeah.
So I was getting the slush, and Milton was there, and he's like, what's going on with the show? How come we haven't done a wrestling show? We always called it the wrestling. It was always referred to as the wrestling show because that's what we called it. It's like, why aren't we doing a wrestling show? And I said, well, Charlie and I got in a fight, so we're not doing it. And he's like, and I remember, Milton was like that older, wiser brother attitude to all of us. And he looked at me, and he's like, you guys are idiots. You know what you need to do? You need to go and make up with Charlie and start doing the show again, because we had something pretty good going here. So that's what Milton lit a fire under my rear end on this. And I'm like, he's right. And so I think I'm the one that Charlie was going to apologize. So I had to go apologize to him. And then we were friends again and back and running with the show. But it almost ended. I remember from that. But the early days, those are the real early days.
How did you go about in Sean's basement? Obviously, with the ring just being bed mattresses, how did you sort of, I suppose, make it into a professional wrestling show?
Well,
that was the show, right?
Yeah, that was where it all started, in Sean's basement. And I guess we had like bed springs down. We had boxes. It was just kind of a free fall back then. It was just, we'd gang up and on each other or on wrestlers and videotape and put it on cable. But that's where it all started. And
I know our storylines would get personal. We'd get so into our characters that it would almost get personal. You'd almost take offense to sometimes what they were saying, forgetting it's a work. We would get that involved in our interviews, where it's like you almost got offended. I remember, well, all of us, but if they're talking about you, because we really got deep in our, smack talk, I guess. And, but that's what it was in the beginning, Keaton. It wasn't so much in our heads. We were professional wrestlers. People watching thought it was just a bunch of kids clowning around. But the characters we were developing during these years carried on as we grew more and more with the show, and it got a little bit more organized. For me, the show really took on a new life when we got the 4 posts and ropes in Group W. That's where it started to resemble a ring. And to me, that's when the show visually started to get more of where if you were to flip on the channel, you knew it was a wrestling match because it looked like a ring. Where before, when you flipped on the channel, it looked like kids on bed mattresses or on a stage, So, once we had what looked like a ring, then it really evolved. And of course, when Lane, and that's the thing, you mentioned this already, but when Lane moved away, my biggest regret in all of this is Luxury wasn't there for the full ride. He didn't get to experience what I did. He didn't get to do the armories and the payday of all of this. He didn't get to experience firsthand what all the hard work we put into it in the beginning. And he sees it, now, and he sees what we did, but I wished he could have been a part of that. And that's only because he moved away, and at this point now he's in Texas, so even further. So he just couldn't be available for those big events. And so that was kind of a, that's I wish Luxury could have been part of that and experience it. Like that would have been good for him.
Yeah, and when you were moving, obviously, to a different place in America for both of your friendship and for the NWF, it was quite big. It was pretty big. How did you tell Sean that you were moving?
Well, I think I can't remember, Sean. Did I call you on that, or did we meet face to face? Because
I think it was face to face.
Yeah.
Charlie, here's the thing though. Charlie hides his emotions even to this day. And when he told me about this, he tried to put on a facade that it wasn't bothering him. And he's disappointed, but he's not gonna, he's not gonna let, he's tough in that respect where he wants to just keep everything inside. And he's like that to this very day, by the way. And, the thing is, though, I remember the very last show we did with Charlie before he moved. On camera, he was happy. He was himself. He was Luxury Lane on camera. The moment we were off camera, you could see the sheer disappointment on his face. I remember that like it was yesterday. And I knew that it was eating him up. But Lane wasn't going to show. Lane's not going to show that. He's a tough guy. He's not going to show them emotions. He's going to keep it within. You know what I'm saying, Luxury?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it was, I think it was back then. I didn't want to, I didn't want it to be a negative situation for Sean.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to come across in a negative manner. It's like, hey, keep this thing going and you got this. You know what I mean?
And that's what he would tell me. He was so big on saying because I was saying, you know what, when I first heard it, I said, well, I guess that's the end of the show. And he's like, no. And Charlie specifically said, he goes, I'll be pissed if you stop doing this show just because I'm moving.
Yeah.
And it was Charlie that suggested I get Mike Ackerman involved and other guys to help run it. And that was all Charlie's suggestions.
I just wanted, I wanted it to go in a good direction, and I knew Sean could do it, and he did. And I just didn't want to see all that effort and work that he put into it just go down the toilet because I was moving. But it was tough. It was a really, really tough situation for me. But hey,
that age, think about it. At that age, I mean, what, you're 12, 13 years old. I mean, you're getting pulled away from all your friends, going into a whole new neighbor, you have to meet new school, new everything. That's tough on any kid, let alone the fact that we had this show going on. I got some, before you go on, Keaton, I got tons of questions that came in that I just didn't keep up on. So let me just bring in some of these. So just get caught up quick and then I'll let you loose again. Right.
Yeah.
So Darren, who's Keaton's dad, wants to know this. Did you play in Chuck's dad's football team or any other sports before you fell in love with wrestling? Well, yeah, football. That was before. I mean, we did that. Karate, I said, not when Lane went through karate lessons, he I had to do it with him. So I was in there too, learning karate. We did it at Carpy's Court. Remember? I remember the training.
Yep.
And so we were learning Taekwondo, kind of Cobra Kai, I guess you could say. And then let's see. TZS Video says, Crusher, were you the most mature out of all the NWF crew during the filming, lights, etc.? I mean, I was still a kid and acted like a kid sometimes and wished I would have been more adult-like. But, I mean, I was a bit older, if that's what you mean, than most of the kids. But we're still teenagers, all of us. I was probably the most, and I'm thinking more after Charlie left, I was probably more serious and wanting this to be serious. I would get mad if the kids started clowning around too much. But we are kids, so I had to keep everybody in line that way. But I was always, serious with the capital S. I mean, I guess I could, off camera, trying to keep things moving, production wise. And then we got a question here. Wrestling Insider says, such a wonderful advice for Keaton. What an opportunity to be chatting with these two people who had a dream and never gave up on it. Well, that's a pretty good compliment for both of us there, Charlie.
Yeah, it sure is.
And then I'm almost caught up here, Keaton. Mighty Molly says, Chuck, did you ever meet Jesse Ventura? You actually sound a bit like him. You do.
Yeah. No, I never had the opportunity to meet Jesse Ventura. I mean, obviously both Sean and I met a lot of wrestlers at FanFest and different events we went to, but never met Jesse. I admired his stage, how he acted and performed. So.
And if you ever met his dad, John Lane, he was also a lot like Jesse Ventura, looked and sounded like. So the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree. I will say that.
Yeah.
And then Darren says, it was before the backyard wrestling era. Yeah, just to put it in context, what we were doing was at least 10 years before backyard wrestling started. So there was no such thing. That terminology, backyard wrestling, didn't even exist when we were doing what we were doing. There was no comparison to it. Nobody thought of it that way either, I wouldn't say, And there was no, that's another thing too. When we were doing our show, say once we started getting media attention and articles were being written and the news came out and did a story on us, there was no attitude from the wrestling community. Like, what are these kids doing? They're mocking us. They didn't have that at all. There was that at all happening. Not even a little bit. It was more admiration. It's like, look at what these kids are doing. This is incredible stuff. That was kind of the attitude of the papers and the news articles and stuff, from what I remember. Lane, I don't know if you have any comment on that from back then.
No, I remember those news articles and when they did a feature on the news. And no, I think that and based on our experience, when we went to FanFest and we're with the pro wrestlers and
some of them guys remembered it.
Yeah. Yep. So there was a lot of admiration there, and we were like I said, we were part of that world.
Nick Bockwinkel for sure. We talked in the elevator. Remember going up to the rooms? Yep. And he specifically remembered us. So, and talking to Vern about it and everything. Yeah.
How good was that? Getting Nick Bockwinkel even remembering you guys? How did that feel?
It was cool. Here's a guy that's been in the business that remembered us, right, Lakshmi?
Oh, it was, yeah. I mean, I was shocked on some of the guys that we met out at FanFest. Like, we're part of the group. I remember going down to the restaurant and the hotel, and we were all sitting together, and fans were coming up. And there's one point, I can't remember who that was, Sean, that stood up and said, "Can you just give us some time, and then we'll sign autographs?" Do you remember that at that table we were sitting at the bar restaurant in the hotel at the FanFest?
Yeah, I remember that happening. I'm trying to remember who it was, though.
Gosh, I can't remember. Well, anyways, yeah, it was pretty cool to be part of that and have the respect from the wrestlers. And
yeah, because we were in the middle of a conversation with all this, and other fans were coming in trying to get in there, and they were talking to us, and they're like, "Can you give us a minute here? We're just trying to discuss some things."
Yeah, old stories, basically, Keegan, is what was going on. A bunch of wrestlers were sitting around a big table, and everybody was talking about their stories. So,
yeah. But we were part of it, and they were actually intrigued with our story, learning it. And these fans were trying to come in and get autographs and stuff while we're talking. And the wrestlers actually said, "Can you give us a minute so we're just talking about some things here?" It made us feel kind of special, really, like we were part of it,
Yeah.
But And they didn't. I don't want to fool anybody. They didn't look at us because we were excellent in the ring or really good at the craft. They looked at us for the ingenuity. I can't even say the word. The fact that we took this at such an early age during a time when nobody was doing it and made something happen where a lot of kids just dreamed of it. And they look at that, the entrepreneurship, I guess is what I'm trying to say, of what we did. To them, that's what was fascinating. Not so much the technical savvy, but the fact that we actually did all this stuff at an early age. And we haven't talked about it yet, Keaton, but Lane, as you've seen in the promo here, we got this. We're bringing the NWF Championship belt back into the fold now after 4 decades, and in NIPW there in Ireland, Northern Ireland, 2 of their finest, Ricky Henry, aka the Canary Kid, and Ben Nelson are going to fight for that belt, and it really brings it full circle. And Lane, you know what I'm talking about. This brings it back to our day, right?
Yep, it sure does.
How do you feel about those guys wrestling for the NWF belt again?
You know what? It sounds like you got 2 talented wrestlers. They've got ambition. They got dreams. They're trying to make things happen. I think it's excellent. I think it's awesome to pass the torch, to give, to have others out there that are sacrificing and doing the things they're doing to get better is very, very, it's humbling. It makes me feel good that type of, kids pro wrestling is moving and going and not just ended,
Right. And they don't refer to it as kids pro wrestling. They look at it as, just being young and starting out in the business. It's kind of how they look at it, right?
I totally get that, but I think it's great on the belt thing.
And I can relate to the whole kids pro wrestling thing because, back when we did NWF, eventually we got away from kids pro wrestling. We used to call ourselves the Kids Pro Wrestling Show and Kids Pro Wrestling, but there came a point when we started doing national television show and we started doing, armories. I'm like, I treated us as just another league now. So I didn't want to be known as Kids Pro Wrestling. I wanted it to be known as just the NWF Wrestling. So I never referred to it as Kids Pro Wrestling at a certain point because as a kid, I didn't want to be treated like a kid. It makes sense. I want to be treated like an adult.
Yeah.
So I didn't like that Kids Pro Wrestling moniker. So I got away from it. Now I did want to go back to that when I wrote my book, just because I felt it really identified us better. But at the time when I was a kid, and I know Lane can relate to this too, we didn't want to be treated as like kids. We want to be treated like we're adults here with what we're doing. We wanted to feel that way.
And you guys obviously paved the way for lots of young kids to get into the business, such as Subforce Ronnie, who's, I believe, is only 9 years old. And obviously, I get a lot of inspiration from the NWF as well, because I started at a young age as well. So what advice would you give to young kids trying to start out and do the same things that you've done?
And before you answer that, Luxury, Wrestling Revolution Keaton is currently training himself in the junior training program at NIPW. So that's part of why he asked the question. What advice would you give?
Pretty awesome, man. That's cool. Cool. I don't know. Do you want to go first, Sean? And I can.
Oh, I've answered this plenty of times with Keaton. I'll let you answer.
Yeah, I think, you know what? I just think anything's possible in life, Keaton. I think if someone has a dream and a goal and they've got effort always wins. So if you train hard, you sacrifice, you put the time in, whether that's if you're into music or into wrestling or into anything in life, if you put effort into your craft and you have a dream and a goal, I always say the sky's the limit. So that's my advice to any young person out there that is wanting to excel in professional wrestling or anything they want to do in life. Never, ever give up on yourself because you're going to get knocked down. And always, man, effort wins. And if you don't have the effort, you're not gonna get there, because dreams and goals, they're tough. They should be tough. They shouldn't be easy to get. And what I always did throughout my life is I would set a goal And when I reached that goal, then I would set another goal. So the ladder kept going higher and higher, right? Because I was never satisfied with this goal. And when I got there, I was happy. But then all of a sudden, man, it's clicked in my head. Okay, I got to do this now. So, and it took a lot of effort. It took a lot of time. And that's just what I tell you, man. If you got a dream and a goal, if you got effort, you got it. You just keep working at it.
Yeah, the physical side of this, you're going to learn. It's just a matter of time. It's the mental part that he just went over. Having the mental goals and the mental attitude, that's the part you can't teach. That's the part you got to have inside you, and that's the part you got to be able to create. I can't tell you, we can tell you this, but it's up to you to make that happen. You got to have that inner drive. And that's something he and I learned at an early age.
We had to, because we had a lot of obstacles in front of us, and we could never give up, and we got knocked down and we kept going. But, obviously being a pro wrestler, you got to get in the gym, you got to sweat, you got to put time in, it's effort mentally. You got to, have these goals and these dreams, you know what I mean? So it's not easy. Nothing's ever easy in life. So you just keep pushing forward and it takes a lot of work. So,
but the payoff is really good. And the only thing I can add to what Lane said is know you're going to fail and learn from your mistakes. Failure is a part of success. Anybody that tells you different is lying. As much as we want perfection out of the gate, the fact of the matter is the only way you get better is to really fall flat on your face, make the mistakes, then learn from it and not do it again. That's how you grow. And you're not going to grow without doing that. And like I said, I don't care who it is. Everybody's experienced that. And they may not always admit it, but they have. Nobody's, is sometimes say, I think, did I write my book or not? Sometimes people look at me and say, well, he never had any obstacles. Well, if you read my book, I had obstacles. But, we learn from them. Lane has learned from them all throughout his life. And he took this stuff that he learned from back and even in the beginning of the show, and he's carried it on with him through life. I've always said, I went to college, I got 2 different degrees, but I learned more from our wrestling show than I did from college as far as running a business. Because I learned just from trial and error how to make things work, how to talk to people, how to get things accomplished, how to have people take you serious even when you're young. Which is why, and I didn't want to get on Ricky in the beginning, but I'm just saying there are some guys that sometimes they doubt themselves because they think they're young, they think they can't be taken seriously, whatever the case may be. And my message there is, you are what you make of it. You got to look at this and say, I might be 13 like yourself, but damn it, I'm going to make it in this business. And I'm going to make something of myself, and I'm going to prove all of you wrong. That's the attitude Lane and I had.
Yeah, we did. I mean, like Sean said, you get knocked down. It's what you do when you get knocked down. Do you make excuses? Yeah. Or do you say, hey, I need to make this change. I got to do better. So there's those kind of folks that just get knocked down and they feel sorry for themselves. They make a ton of excuses, but just own it, and make it happen. That's the best thing you can do, and you'll get there.
And I don't want to get on Ricky too much. I just know that there's a part of him that felt this way on certain things. For the most part, Canary Kid knows where he's going. He knows what he wants in life. He knows what he's doing, and he's really, really talented young kid. So I don't want to bash him too much. But and it's not just Canary Kid. It's anybody in life. Anybody that when you start doubting yourself and what you can do, that's when you need to read Crusher Crossen. Crusher Crossen's book, Pro Wrestling Kid Style, which is, of course, Lane's in that book as much as I am. I mean, it's our story. But I wrote it. But I mean, learn what we did, learn what we went through, learn what we accomplished. You'll think twice. I mean, you read the book, Keaton. What'd you think of it?
I thought it went into a lot more detail than it did in the DVD, and it's obvious to see that you went through a lot of struggles, from wrestling in bed mattresses to the wooden floor to finally getting in the ring, and then performing at the Armory in front of over 150 people, and there was obstacles in your way, and that just showed any other kid that they can do it.
I mean, did it give you inspiration when you read it, thinking that I can maybe accomplish things?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's the whole idea. Here's a comment that just came in from Scenic Spots. He's one of our regular commenters. He says, did people doubt you guys in your NWF dreams? How did you turn them doubters into believers? Yeah, I mean, I talked about it. People would doubt us all the time, especially in the beginning, because I remember going to school when we first started doing the show. And because remember, back in those days, it was just cable TV. You didn't have satellite television. You didn't have a computer and internets and that kind of thing and YouTube. None of that existed. All we had as entertainment was cable. So, and there's only about 40 channels. So when we were on our cable show on prime time, people would channel surf. That's what they called it, channel surfing. Is where you clicked through the channel, the clicker. They always call it clicking. And you would go through the channels. And when they would pop onto channel 3, where we were, and see us, they'd tune in. And so when we went to school after a bit of this, we started, hearing from the other kids of what they thought of us. Now, not everybody was a fan. Some people doubted the whole thing. They said, "What are you wasting your time?" Right? Other kids were fascinated. They're like, "I want to be a part of this." And those are the kids that eventually came on the show. But there were kids that gave us shit, for lack of a better word.
I think too, Sean, on that, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
yep.
I remember those days too, those early days. And there was doubters, but some people just thought, "Oh, this is crazy. I'll never go anywhere." And then others were jealous.
Oh yeah, there was jealousy.
They wanted to bash the show and bash us and bash everything just because they were just jealous because they're not doing it. They didn't come up with the idea. And then you had others that were like, "Wow, I want to be on TV." Like back then, cable TV guys, it was like the biggest thing in the world to be part of and be on. And you thought like you were a superstar. I mean, I know Sean and I were playing neighborhood football with some kids, Mike Ackerman's friends, and they were from Colorado, and they watched the show out there. They said, "You're Luxury Lane, Crusher." I mean, I can go on and on, but the thing is
getting recognized
back then, and I didn't even let it bother me because they were a waste of my time.
Yeah, you're right. We didn't listen to a whole lot of that. We heard it, but we didn't. You have to be able to zone out negative energy, and that was negative energy. So, Lane and I learned early on that if we keep listening to this, it'll kill us. So we let it go in one ear and out the other. Now the other kids that were like, "Hey, that's cool. Can I come on that show?" Yeah, absolutely. We're going to do a taping next week. We had an open door policy, and Lane was responsible for recruiting a lot of the guys in the beginning. He was when we went to school, even though Crusher Crossen is the most popular one ever on the show, we know that. But Lane, in reality, Lane in school was a lot more popular than I was. So he had a lot more friends. And a lot of his friends became wrestlers on our show.
It wasn't that hard though, Sean, honestly, to recruit because we had a lot more people that thought what we were doing was really cool compared to the few negative people, right? But it was really easy once people started to watch cable television and see it. So it's like, "Gosh, can I come? Lane, can I come to the show? Can I be on it?" So it wasn't really hard to recruit because back then, like I said, it was a cool thing to be on TV. So I think that's
being on TV. Forget the show. Just being on cable and being on a television show. That was something that none of us ever got to experience. So it was like, this is cool shit. We can be on TV. You got to understand, like that was just mind blowing for us, right? That's the thought of it.
And as we're talking about there, the NWF went through a lot of obstacles, from bed mattresses to performing in the Anoka Armory in front of paying customers. But one obstacle that was always in your ways was Scott Tronson, also known as Old Man Tronson. What was your experiences like with him?
Yeah, Lane, do you remember Scott Tronson much at the cable company?
Yeah, I remember Scott, and he was a real jerk. He did everything he could to get rid of us.
We got the feeling he didn't like us very much, right?
No, it irritated him when we were in there filming and when we were editing. And Scott was just like he was kind of like one of those mosquitoes that lands on you, and then you hit it and it miss, and then it lands again, and finally it keeps pestering you. If that makes any sense, it's just like a something that is a pest. And that's what Scott Tronson was to me. And I'm sure he honestly was a great guy. He was probably just, I don't know. He was a manager there, so maybe he was concerned about certain things, and us younger people didn't understand that. But
I've learned too. He has younger brothers, and so he's an older brother to a lot of younger brothers. So he probably grew up with a lot of younger brothers, and he looked at us as younger brothers just fooling around in his studio, and he wasn't. He was a guy who worked at the cable company, for anybody wondering. And everybody at the cable company, though, loved us. Like Pam Hansen, Dave Nyberg, all these guys that Charlie I know remembers. They were fans of what we were doing. They were Terry Lovis. They really liked what we were doing. But Scott didn't. He was the one guy who thought this was silliness. You guys are he was one of those, he was basically one of the older kids at school that said we're wasting our time. That's what Scott Tronson was. So we always had to fight with him over different things.
What's your most strange or the most memorable memory you have of Scott Johnson just being annoying?
Well, I'll tell you one I remember is the biggest. He came in and we only have a 3-hour block in the studio. You have 3 hours to get your show done. And then it's time to leave. And usually we would be in there on a Saturday. So we're in there on a Saturday. We're wrapping the show up. We're at the end of it. We're filming it. We're wrapping it up. I was in the control room. Mike was on a camera, Mike Ackerman. And Rob Jacob was in the ring trying to end the show. And all of a sudden, I see lights going off. And it's getting darker and darker and darker. And I'm like, Mike, what the hell's going on? Because otherwise we're recording. We're trying to end the show and it's getting dark. And Mike's like, he's on the headset like this. And he's talking under his leg because Scott Tronson just came in and he started shutting the lights off. I said, you gotta be kidding me. And I was furious, but our time was up and he wanted us out of the studio. I don't know if you remember anything, Lane, about when
I just remember him, kind of being a jerk to us and doubting us. And I don't have one particular memory I could just say, well, this was it. I just knew that I didn't care for Scott, and I didn't like how he treated us. But
he was not a wrestling fan either, by the way.
No.
He didn't like it. So it's like that doesn't help. You know. I remember another thing when we left the studio in Group W Cable, when Tronson got rid of that stage, and in Scott's mind, he's like, I'm going to kill this show. I'm going to get rid of the stage they're using. So that's why I think he did it. But he got rid of the stage, and now we just lost our ring. We had the rope and post, but we didn't have anything else. And they're going to replace the stage with a new styrofoam stage. And I said, Scott, we can't make this work. What are we going to do? We need that stage. And he's like, well, maybe you could get some bricks, and you could just prop the posts up in the bricks. And it won't work, but it might look like a ring. Maybe that'll work. And I'm like, get out of here. I'm done. I'm done talking. That ain't going to work. So it's like, what Scott didn't expect is for me to figure out a way to make the show keep going. And when I went into the garage, he did not see that coming. And he right away looked at us with a fine-tooth comb, and I slipped up and said I was pissed. I said, I'm pissed in an interview. Scott said, that's it. You're suspended. We're going to suspend you for 2 weeks. You just said that. You can't say that on cable. So he was so bitter at that time because the show kept going that he had to find something, and he found this little tiny word that I used that really wasn't that bad. He used it against us. Oh, I could go on and on with Tronson, but yeah, it's been a fascinating interview, huh, Keaton? Did you get through all your questions?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I mean that was great, and I was happy with everybody chiming in with their comments and stuff. Here's one from your dad. He says, it would be great to get Old Man Tronson onto one of the shows. Crusher, did you ever ask him to join you or Dixie Dave? Yeah, Scott's not interested. I don't think he wants to revisit any of this. We tried getting him for the documentary, and he wasn't interested then. But yeah, he's kind of in life. He moved on in life, and he just doesn't really care to be involved at all. Some people are like that. So whatever, teach their own. But no, it's been a great interview and stuff. I hope everybody liked learning. It's great. I always like seeing Charlie again, Lane. We've been best friends since the first grade with him and I, and we always stay in touch. He's my silent partner, as I always like to say. You don't always see Lane, but he's always in the background, especially when I do big things. So you never know. Maybe Lane might come out to Northern Ireland for this big match to see this title match, and maybe he might overtake my reffing abilities. Who knows?
Maybe and I need to get in the ring and see who's the NWF champion.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's just what we need. And then, man, don't even give Nate Maddox, don't even give Nathan Hoy any ideas. The promoter over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that'll be a fun. I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be a fun thing, and I think it should be pretty interesting. I'm really happy for Keaton and all the fans over there too to be able to see this right in your own backyard, and so it's going to be pretty cool. And you know what? Honestly, I didn't say this yet, but honestly, we're taking the NWF now in the Kayfabe world, the NWF World Title. I went all over the world. I was in Japan, I was in Australia, I was in Canada, I went everywhere. That's storyline talk. The belt never left North America, but now it actually is becoming a world title in a sense, because we're going almost halfway around the world with the belt now. So, here's one more question before we sign off here. Looking back at the photos, Chuck, what are your emotions looking back? Now that the belt is coming to Northern Ireland, would you be interested in joining Crusher to see the match live? Maya wants to know.
That's a good question. I mean, I think earlier I kind of tried to express this. I'm really happy to see the NWF belt go over there. I think things need to be passed on and moved on, and I have no I don't have any ill feelings, I guess, about the belt leaving here and whatnot. I think it's exciting, actually. As far as me making a trip to Northern Ireland, I just got to look at my time frame. I mean, my daughter's due in the middle of May, and kind of middle of May with a baby, so that's exciting. So yeah, I just don't know, because I know this is early June when this is taking place. But if there's any way I can make things work, it'd be awesome to watch that match and see that torch get passed. And like Sean said, that NWF belt go to another professional wrestler. And I'm sure Sean's going to have a lot more emotions on that particular belt than I do, but I'm happy that it's going over there.
And of course, we're talking about this belt, and yes, I will have a lot more emotions. And this is a beautiful belt. And Lane, I know that you never held this one, but I just got to say, if you were able to win this title, I think you would have. But the fact of the matter is, you just weren't Crusher Crossen material, and you were second fiddle. You were PWA champion, but you just NWF. Were you really in my league? I guess is the question. little Crusher promo.
That was a good one, Crusher. That was good.
Yeah, were you the first ever PWA champion?
Yeah,
he was.
Yeah. And
we didn't call it PWA for Pro Wrestling America, Keaton. We called it Pacific Wrestling Association. This is before Eddie started his league. Just FYI.
I was thinking of PWA America.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I was I held that belt because Sean and I came to a compromise. I wanted to be a champion and he wanted to be a champion, and so
he says, when am I going to win? When am I going to win? When do I get to beat you? When do I get the belt? So I didn't want to lose this belt. So I'm like, how about we make another one? PWA champion.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty cool. PWA champion. So, it was fun. Tag team champion.
He was the first tag team champ though with Campa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
For our show. But yeah, Now that was something, Lane. If you can somehow make it work, you're always invited. So
Oh, you bet. Yep.
yeah. But I know you're busy, and I know you have lots of things on different burners. So it's like, it's the kind of thing that if he can do it, he will. I know Lane. If he could make it work, he would. So if it could work out, I'm sure he would find a way. But if sometimes life in this day and age, life has got a lot of other things going on, and he's a very busy guy. That's why, just so everybody knows, I have Dixie Dave as my co-host on Rewind, not by, Dixie Dave's a great co-host and was his idea. And the reason Lane isn't on there is because Lane's busy. He just doesn't have time to do a bi-weekly show. So, but he thinks very highly of what Dave and I do with Rewind. And I know he
I
catches
get
a lot
on.
of the shows.
When I can, I watch it and I make some comments. And I'm not
Yeah.
always able to do that because of my schedule or different things. So,
Yeah.
but I enjoy it when I do watch the guys.
All right, Lane. Well, I know we've kept you, and we usually go about an hour and a half, so we're kind of at the end of the show here. So thanks so much for coming on with us, Keaton. What do you have anything to say?
Yeah, thanks so much. That was so fascinating hearing all your stories.
Yeah, you bet. It's good to meet you. Good luck to you, and keep that dream going, man. Keep it going. You just keep working effort. You'll get there.
Thanks.
And Crusher, thank you for inviting me, and you both invited me to be on this.
It was his idea. It was Keaton's idea. I just said I'll get a hold of him, see if he can. I know you got a busy schedule and stuff, and man, we got to get you on. We got to get you on the NWF Forward show one of these days too. You can give Ricky a piece of your mind. Maybe you can talk some sense into this kid. As I know, I've tried. He's like a. I always refer to Canary Kid as a smart aleck snot nosed punk, and Keaton always shakes his head as I say that because he thinks I'm being disrespectful to Canary.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to do this again. This was a lot of fun, guys.
Yeah.
And, so.
All right. Well, we're going to just jump to our other screen and wrap the show up. But thanks again for joining in, Luxury. And I hope everybody enjoyed the show. So, all right. So we're on our screen here. And I actually wanted to, Keaton, before we wrap it up, I want to say what's coming up next, right? That's what I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to our what's coming up next screen. So this is what's up on the horizon. So, what's this? Let me fix this one. I got the wrong one here. We already had Luxury Lane. Here, I got a new one here. Let me just fix this quick. We have a new one for you, for your show. I think it's this one right here. This it?
Yes, this is it.
All right, so I'm gonna just replace that because we already had Luxury. All right, there. So this is what's coming up on the next shows. So this one actually here is which one's coming up first? Is it Rewind? Yeah, Rewind's a day earlier.
Rewind.
So next one up is going to be Studio Taping 99 with, as you notice, it's not Dixie Dave, it's the Irish Terror, although Dixie Dave may be on this one too. But he was technically not going to make this show originally, so we got Jamie McParland taking his place. So Irish Terror, that'll be a good show. And I know Jamie's got some opinions on this match coming up between Canary Kid and Ben Nelson. He's going to share. So we'll be talking about that, of course. And our only Irish gimmick, Keaton, the Irish Terror. Great guy, though, by the way. He's a great storyteller, great talker. It's going to be a great show having him on. And that's coming up this coming Thursday on NWF Forward on our YouTube channel over on NWF. And then, I'm sorry, NWF Rewind. Did I say Forward? I meant NWF Rewind. And then on your show, Keaton, coming up then the following Friday at a special time, 5 p.m. UK time. Tell us about this.
Yeah, I'm very excited for this one. Now, if you remember, Marty Jones's computer died, and he said he wanted to do a part 2.
Yeah.
While we were talking to Marty Jones, he said he would get on Johnny Saint. Johnny Saint is honestly one of my favourite wrestlers of all time. The guy's an absolute legend in the ring. He was called the Master of 1,000 Holds for a reason. His holds and his technical wrestling was absolutely incredible. So 2 British wrestling legends, Marty Jones and Johnny Saint, will be joining us. Johnny Saint, even when he got older, Triple H hired him as a NXT UK general manager. So he's friends with Triple H and everyone like that. Former British lightweight champion will be joining us with Marty Jones.
Well, that's going to be a great show. Now, I don't think I'll make that one just because of the time. So Keaton's going to be kind of controlling the ship here, guys. We're going to bear with us if the show doesn't start right on time. Just hang tight because these guys are not technically savvy. So sometimes we have to, they'll have to maybe walk them through some things. Maybe we'll see. Hopefully they get on okay. So just be patient if the show doesn't start right on time. Is all I'm saying. But yeah, that's going to be a great show. So some good shows coming up, and I don't have the graphic here, but I guess I can show it. Let's see, there's another graphic I'm going to bring in here. In addition to all of that, we also have here, if I can find it. I have it here somewhere. Let me see. Ah, here it is. The next NWF Forward show. Officer Smalls from San Antonio Style Wrestling and By Ty something. He watched the whole show we just did, and he's hearing everything. I just chatted with Kate, with Officer Smalls. He's hearing all this talk out of Ricky's mouth, and he this should be an interesting show. I don't know if he's taken too kindly to all the smack talk Ricky's been doing against Officer Smalls. So Ricky keeps saying he's going to get a sore neck looking down at him and all this stuff. I'll tell you something. You defend this bird, but he's talking a lot of smack to a lot of people here lately.
Okay, so he's talking a lot of smack to a lot of people. He's talking smack to Crossen. And on the you even said this yourself, on the very first Fast Forward show, you were lucky enough and you were honoured to have the Canary Kid on as a guest. And he was being respectful to you. You started disrespecting the Canary Kid a few weeks after.
Whoa. Hold on a second. When did I start? You just back up 1 minute here. When did I start being disrespectful?
When you started mocking the Canary Kid on you mocked him on Kayfabe with Keaton. The second time you seen him, even when he was commenting on my channel, you were giving him some stick. And then after it, when he came on NWF Forward, you got him in as a co-host, probably just to mock him again, and he couldn't take no more. So he had to bite back even harder, and that's what you get.
Back up 1 minute here. 1 minute here. I started mocking the Canary Kid only after he literally called me a schmuck, quote unquote, on your show. He called me a schmuck. He started it. Just like he started it last night at NIPW when he wouldn't do the tag properly and he lost the match for him and John. We didn't even talk about that, you guys. We didn't even talk about what happened.
Well, that was what the Canary Kid done there. The Canary Kid attacked Ben Nelson after it, and that's what happened. Now the Canary Kid has a more vicious side of him because Ben Nelson disrespected him and because John McCann wasn't there for the tag, and that is the problem. And
John McCann's knees hurting. He had to go in there, or whatever it was, the leg, and it all went south. Now, and then looks to me like some heat brewing up between Ben Nelson and Canary Kid there at the end of that match as well. So all of this leading into this big match coming up, I don't know what's going to happen. So, we're talking about, the big match coming up, of course, with the, I guess I should get rid of, I'll get rid of the Officer Smalls because we kind of changed subject now, but, we're talking about this big title match coming up. And for those of you who missed it, we're talking about this. Canary Kid versus Ben Nelson, June 1st in the Malone Rugby Club. And I'll tell you something, that heat is already starting between these two. They're very cordial on Forward. They're respectful for each other, but all of a sudden, sounds like things might have went south a little bit in that ring last night, right, Keaton?
Oh, yeah. They were definitely respecting each other on Forward. And then when they got in the ring with each other, it became different. Now, it was going to be a respectful match, a good technical wrestling, maybe a 5-star match. Nowadays, it's just going to be a scrap where the Canary Kid just gets too angry and it just turns into a proper fight. And that's what I think it's going to be now. And the Canary Kid, you don't want to anger the bird. You don't want to anger the king of NIPW, the OG BRRD. You do not want to anger him or bad things will come. And Ben Nelson has made a huge mistake because he does not know who he's facing. He is facing a Canary Kid. He thinks he's facing his nice best friend. No.
Let me remind you, bird worshiper, I'm the referee in this thing. And the rules are no closed fists. If Canary wants to make it a fight and wants to start getting into it, and I see closed fists, I will warn him. And if I have to disqualify his rear end, I will. He's better play by the rules here for this title match. I'll just say that.
Well, obviously you're so back in the day, with like the Canary Kid said, the cavemen even run into the ring. That would be kind of the problems. So obviously, because you're so back in the day, that you'd even be giving warnings out to the Canary Kid. You'd forget the rules while you're refereeing, because that doesn't even exist no more. Because you said, are you going to warn him?
Yes, I would warn him. And but I already warned him on this, so he knows the deal. So I don't know. I'm not no pushover though. You're not going to get away with it with Crusher Cross, and this is why I told Nathan I need to ref this thing because I got to make sure everything goes down 100% on the up and up. I'm not going to let any shenanigans take place.
He says that you're not going to let anything bad happen, and that you're not going to let anyone away with it. You're not going to let Canary Kid away with it. But if Ben Nelson even tries to punch the Canary Kid, you didn't see it. You'll probably turn around somewhere else. If the Canary Kid lays a fist back, you saw it, you disqualified him. That's the way I think this is going to go.
Well, you're jumping to a lot of conclusions.
Because if this match ends any way of Ben Nelson winning it, it will be in disqualification. Because Crusher Crossen just disqualified him for no reason. A biased referee.
I'm not biased. Look, I don't have a problem. I can do it. I can, even if Canary covers Ben and he beats him enough where he gets him down and he gets him pinned, I won't have any trouble doing the 3 count. I won't have any trouble doing the 3 count if Ben does the same. So Mr. Integrity Crusher Crossen will come out here and do the job that the ref needs to do, and that is call it down the middle. And I know you're kind of wondering if that's going to happen, and I know Canary in the back of his head's wondering if that's going to happen, because Canary knows that he just burned his bridges with me on every episode of Forward for about 2 or 3 months. And he's probably got it in the back of his mind. I know what he's thinking. He's thinking, oh my gosh, what did I do all that for? That was not smart by me, was it? No, it wasn't. But trust me, I will call it down the middle. I won't play any games.
I'll tell you what's not smart. Sharing the same ring with the Canary Kid after what you've said about him. You called him just a little bird. You said that, I think you referred to him once as Tweety Pie. You referred to him
Tweety.
as
It was Tweety Bird.
Yeah, Tweety Bird. You're referring to him as bad stuff. And what's even crazier is Crusher Crossen wants to get in a ring refereeing with the Canary Kid. One of the most vicious wrestlers when he needs to be in NIPW, the king of NIPW. I don't know what you're doing.
Well, see, Keaton, that's just the difference between me and you. You're the kind of person that is intimidated and is afraid of what you hear from the big bad bird. And I'm the kind of person that is like, you don't fool me, kid. Bring it on. You want to be a tough guy? I'll be a tough guy right back. So that's how I'm going to referee this match. With law and order on my side, I will be the governing body in that ring to make sure this match goes down the middle.
And who do you think's going to win?
Well, as the referee, I have to be impartial, so I really can't even voice my opinion there. I will say this. They are both very qualified, and as far as it goes, it wouldn't surprise me if either one of them won. So they, I think, are both very talented. Canary Kid may have a bit more of experience, but I think Ben Nelson has a bit more drive. When I say that, meaning he's got a little bit more fire right now because he's just, he's still new and he's still very eager to want to prove himself. Where Canary's already been at it for a few more years, and he's got a little bit, he's already seen some of that experience. So if that makes any sense. So, but as far as who I think's going to win, I have to be impartial, and I can't really voice an opinion there. Nice try, Keaton. I know you tried to get me there to say something, but it was a good try, but it didn't work.
And also, earlier, did you just say I'm afraid of the Canary Kid? Did I hear that come out?
I didn't say you're afraid. I said you're intimidated by him. He intimidates you in training. He tells you got to start talking nice about him or else he's going to beat you up more in training. Who knows what he's saying behind
This
closed
is
doors?
this is proper conspiracy theories. All because I'm backing up someone from NIPW who you're bullying. Apparently, he's bullying me in training. He actually said there he's intimidating you in training. He did not intimidate me.
I
And
didn't see the latest footage, but who knows? I didn't know if he was there because he's been under the weather. But yeah, it seems like when he's there training, though, he goes extra tough on you. I've seen it with my own eyes.
when was this?
When you do your little montage, quick little snippets, videos that you put up on your channel of your training segments.
Yeah, but what did he do to what did he do to intimidate me or go extra hard on me?
Oh, he just hits you harder. I watch how hard he hits the other kids, and I see him hit you, and I can tell. Look, when you've been in this, you know when somebody's hitting hard. I see it. He's bullying you. He's the bully of Belfast. But you know what? It doesn't matter if he's the bully of Belfast. It ain't going to change anything in this match. I know you guys think that I might play favorites. I'm not. And Ben knows very well. He could very well lose this thing. So we'll see who walks out with this belt. But you know what it's going to be? It's going to be an awesome match. I think we all can agree on that. And, for the NWF title, I think we had a comment over on our channel, Keaton. It's one of the viewers commented and said it's going to be cool. It's cool to see the NWF belt getting risen from the ashes to be born again, is the way they described it. And I can't think of a better way to describe it. That's really what's happened here. And like I said, everybody thought it was going to be, because of our history, they thought it's going to be Crusher versus Canary. Well, here's the thing.
Afraid.
No, I'm not afraid. The fact of the matter is that belt represented us, like we just had on this interview today, Keaton, with Luxury Lane. Innovators, guys that were just being creative and doing something that nobody had ever seen before and making a name for ourselves. That's what the belt represents. Everybody that held this belt was a part of that creative force at the time. So what makes more sense today? To have me come out of retirement and relive this glory days, try to do this again? Or does it make more sense to take two up-and-comers in NIPW, two of the finest, that really fit the mold of what the NWF was, not at the wrestling level, because they're better than us, but with the idea of being innovative? What makes more sense? To have them two fight for the belt and let me guest ref it? Or to have me come out of retirement and beat up Canary Kid? I mean, honestly, that just wouldn't be any entertaining even. It would be me beating up this kid. I mean, we don't want to see that. Who wants to see that?
The Canary Kid, you're right about that. The Canary Kid is afraid of getting in the ring with you. I'm finally admitting that he's afraid of getting in the ring with you because he doesn't want to hurt an old man and he doesn't want his reputation to go down as beating up an old man.
You seen what Nate Maddox did to him? That would be the same. It'd be rinse and repeat. So we don't need to relive that again. Yeah. So there's that. We can go on and on here. But and I'm sure Ricky will give me an earful on the next forward once he realizes what I said. But it is what it is. But no, I honestly, seriously, I am not going to play any games when I'm in there reffing, and I will be, doing my job, and that is, first of all, being very humbled to be invited to do this, and then secondly, I will call it down the middle. And my role is really small here, guys. Yeah, he's a 5-time champ, so I have a history with it, but my role is small here in comparison to these two. One of these two is going to be the 5th person to hold the blue belt. That in of itself is cool as hell for me. So guys, I mean, tickets aren't on sale yet, but keep that website down because once this event does get in there, they're doing monthly events here. So it's like we got to wait until this one comes up. But when it does, get your tickets early because I don't know, Keaton, that one probably going to sell out, don't you think?
Oh yeah, definitely. The Malone shows always sell out.
Yeah.
You do not want to miss this one. The Canary Kid said there at the last forward, this is a piece of history. Coming out of retirement after 40 years, 40th anniversary of the championship. This is incredible. two of the best up and comers in NIPW, Canary Kid and Ben Nelson. It'll be incredible, and obviously you refereeing it. Someone who's held it 5 times. You do not want to miss this. You get tickets for it.
So this is pretty big news, don't you think, Keaton?
Yeah.
For NAPW and everything? Yeah. So yeah, definitely. We'll be talking about it on Forward. We'll be talking about it here on Keaton Show. We'll keep it all fresh as we go. But it's just the buildup of it. But I'll tell you something. What I seen, because you guys always share me the footage, what I seen happen last night. Boy, I don't know, that all the nice talk with each other there they did on Forward. I think we can throw that out the window here. It looks like things are going in a different direction here, and I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen with these two.
Yeah, you don't want to anger the bird.
So it's going to make it quite interesting. And well, what it comes down to is they both want this belt, and the bottom line is, storylines aside, there's some tension brewing here.
Yeah,
Let's just say that.
definitely.
Storyline or no storyline. So with that, guys, we're going to let you go. It was been a great show, and I know a lot of you guys are going to catch this in replay, and so I hope you enjoyed the interview with Luxury Lane, and we got some great shows coming up. Marty Jones will be back again at the end of the week, and
then on Sunday, I've gone up on Sunday as well. We didn't get him on at the start because of the technical difficulties, but we're having him on again to finally learn about Disco Dom from the Micro Wrestling Federation.
Okay. Is that going to be a week from today?
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't have a graphic, but yeah, that's one coming up too. So, all right, folks. So with that, we're going to bid you farewell, and I hope you enjoyed the show. And like I said, let's just keep our ears peeled for this one, guys. Really looking forward to this. And not only that, I didn't mention it, but I mentioned a little bit on Forward, but when I'm in town, I will be doing a seminar with you guys.
Yeah, it'll be good.
The kid training. And yes, I'll be in there on a Saturday with you guys, and I'm going to bring shirts and books and documentaries for all the kids. And plus I'll go over a few things in the ring as well. So we'll have some fun. And I know you guys all like to learn more about the drop kicks, so maybe we'll talk about that and a few other things. So I got a few things up my sleeve that I'm going to try to show you guys that I know Nathan will be okay with. So yeah, maybe it'll be fun, and it'll be fun to meet Keaton. It'll be fun to meet his dad, and of course Canary Kid and Ben Nelson and all the guys in the NIPW. So it's kind of like it's a win-win for me. I get to come and ref it, plus I get to come and meet all these guys. So
It'll be awesome.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So all right, guys, thanks for joining in. And if you just came in now, just watch us in replay here. It was a great show. A lot of great things. We talked not only about this match, but we talked about everything. We talked about a lot of things. So definitely rewatch it. All right, guys, we will see you next time we're live.